With a series as old as Mario, it's not that strange that some names would be changed over time. The man himself was once known as Jumpman, before eventually becoming Mario. Peach originally listened to the name Princess Toadstool, while Bowser used to be referred to as King Koopa. But what stands out among those names is that all three have by now spent far longer with their current names than they ever did with their old ones. Mario was Jumpman for only 2 years. Peach had her name changed in Yoshi Safari, which was released 8 years after the original Super Mario Bros. And while Bowser has technically been called that since his first appearance, the name didn't see common use until a few years later. But those numbers are absolutely nothing compared to the almost exactly 30 years this enemy right here carried its name with pride. From August 1990 to August 2020, this was a Banzai Bill. Today, it is not. We begin our little look at this name change at the very beginning. After all, in order to realize how impactful and bizarre this name change really is, you have to be familiar with how the name came to be, how incredibly often it had been used, and how frequent this enemy eventually ended up being. So, it is August the 23rd, 1990, the American release day of Super Mario World. After bullet bills had been around since the very dawn of the series, the original Super Mario Bros., this new game introduced 2 new variants. The first is Torpedo Ted, which has never really had a breakthrough despite occasional appearances here and there, and the other is the Banzai Bill. These enormous variants are characterized by their mouth and sharp teeth, which originally appeared to be painted on, but were later down the line confirmed to be an actual functional mouth and teeth. The design addition was not so subtly inspired by shark faces, art for the nose of missiles and bombs that pilots would make during World War II. It has since become quite a commonly used way to add some character and cartoon energy to a pretty destructive weapon, and the same thing more or less applies to a Banzai Bill. Even though Banzai is a Japanese word, this name is actually not used at all in its home country. There, it is known as Magnum Killer, a double entendre based on its massive size, as well as association with guns and bullets. Oh, and I should probably note that the Japanese name of a bullet bill is Killer, explaining why that's there. When you look into the history of the word we used for 30 years to refer to this variant, Banzai, it initially seems like a very odd pick. Banzai is a word used for celebrations, kinda like hooray, and literally means 10,000 years. In this context, it is also used for the phrase long live, as in long live the king, for example. But while these words don't hold any birthday significance in English, they actually do in Japan as well as several other languages. So, then why is a giant bullet named after birthday wishes? Well, that has everything to do, once again, with the Second World War. As I hope your history teacher taught you, Japan was not so nice during those years and found themselves at war with the Allied forces, particularly America. The Japanese forces didn't shy away from just throwing body after body after body at their enemy, no matter who'd fall. The most famous example of this are the kamikaze pilots, who'd crash their aircraft into their target and would go down with the ship. This same behavior also happened on land, however, especially when it became clear a battle would be lost. As a last-ditch effort, Japanese commanders would send their troops out in full force to run at the enemy and swarm them in hopes of doing as much damage as possible before eventually falling themselves. These attacks would swiftly become known as Banzai charges among the Allied soldiers, a name that derived from what the Japanese soldiers would shout before commencing the attack. Tenno Haika Banzai, or Long Live His Majesty the Emperor. Are you starting to see the problem here? We have a Mario enemy whose MO is flying towards their target before exploding and taking themselves out as well, who's named after actual real-life Japanese soldiers doing the exact same thing in one of history's darkest pages, still only 80 years ago. Banzai Bill was for sure named after the Banzai charge, rather than the actual celebratory meaning of the word, which really just brings up the question, how the hell was this name allowed to be used for 30 years? Not that I think it's necessarily offensive or anything, Banzai is not an offensive term at all, I'd argue. But the fact that Nintendo of all companies greenlit this name being used again and again and again in their biggest games is honestly a little out of character for them. Because make no mistake here, Torpedo Ted might have never had their big breakthrough, but Banzai Bills have become quite prominent over the years. In fact, they have been in the vast majority of mainline Super Mario games ever since they were introduced. They're in every new Super Mario Bros. Game, both Galaxy titles, 3D Land and World, and they're a capturable enemy in Mario Odyssey. They've also been a main stage hazard in Smash Bros. Ever since Melee and have appeared in a variety of spin-off titles like Mario Party games, Paper Mario Sticker Star, Mario Luigi Bowser's Inside Story and way more. For all intents and purposes, it seems like Nintendo just didn't care what they were named after. Even during the so-called bland or safe era, where everything felt sanitized and a little corporate, this name wasn't changed. And maybe it wasn't even Nintendo who made this decision. While there is absolutely no way to know for certain what happened behind the scenes, I do think it is very interesting that this big name change after 30 years didn't happen until other companies came into the picture. August 1st, 2020. It's only 22 days out from Super Mario World's 30th anniversary, and while that definitely wasn't the reason of this release, it would mark a huge change for the enemy this video has been all about. On this day, a brand new LEGO Super Mario set hit store shelves, listening to the name Boomer Bill Barrage. It indeed featured the enemy that was up until that moment known as Banzai Bill, prominently, alongside the necessary launcher of course, as well as his Shy Guy, essentially forming a small level for your LEGO Mario to traverse. After nearly 30 years, Banzai became Boomer, which I guess is fitting to an extent with that age. It also meant that for several languages worldwide, this was now the first official name of this enemy. Countries like Hungary, Lithuania, Croatia, Slovakia and more don't get the Mario games in their native language, but they do get LEGO sets in their native language, with indeed this enemy being referred to as Boomer Bill consistently all across the world, except for Japan, which never used Banzai to begin with. So, a new name has been decided, end of story, right? If only it was that easy. Because while the unwanted term Banzai had at least been removed from the name, fact of the matter is that Boomer Bill is a weird name that seems to refer to literally nothing concerning the actual enemy at all. So yeah, it goes boom, a lot of enemies do. When the Super Mario Bros. Movie released in 2023 and featured what we now call Boomer Bill, it renamed it again. From now on, Illumination said, this enemy is known as a Bomber Bill. It's an improvement, at least, I guess, seeing as it now actually refers to what the enemy does, but let's wait until the actual games follow suit. After all, the name Boomer Bill was only ever used by LEGO. It never appeared in an actual game. There was also no opportunity to, but still. Anyway, at the end of 2024, we finally got the official in-game confirmation. Super Mario Party Jamboree has a stage in Bowser's Kaboom Squad that is known as Bomber Bills, meaning that, at least at this point in time, this is indeed the new official name of this enemy. After 30 years of being Banzai Bill and presumably another 3 as a Boomer, we'll now have to get used to calling this enemy a Bomber Bill. Now, while I don't think this is a bad name at all, Boomer Bill is terrible, Bomber Bill is fine, I do want to highlight 2 oddities that currently persist, at the moment I'm making this video at least. First of all, there is a bizarre lack of consistency going on worldwide with the name of this enemy. So, originally the name Banzai Bill was used basically everywhere, except for Japan, obviously, and China and Korea, who used the Japanese name Magnum. France and Germany also used their own names, being Bill Bourrin, meaning Brutal Bill, and Riesenkugelwilli, which translates to Giant Bullet Bill, more or less. Everywhere else used a name containing the word Banzai. Then, when the LEGO set was released, every country that used the term Banzai adapted and called the enemy Boomer Bill, as mentioned before. But today, the name Bomber Bill is not consistently used at all. The Canadian French name is now Bill Baraquet, which means hefty bill. In Italian, it's now Palottalone Bill, giant bullet bill. Portuguese and Spanish use Bill Balazio and Bill Balazzo respectively, which are basically the same name and a pun on Bullet Bill's name, Bill Bala. And in Russian, it's now Bill Gigant, so giant bill. Point being, for some reason, the name of this enemy is now different all across the world, while it originally was quite streamlined and similar. It feels like the opposite of what you see companies like Nintendo do these days, but I'm sure they have their reasons, even if I don't know them. And then finally, we have another oddity that we gotta enjoy while we can, cause this feels inevitable to be changed somewhere down the line, but currently, only the name of the enemy itself has been changed. The launchers they come out of are not named in the Mario movie, the Lego set, or Mario Party Jamboree, and thus have only ever been referred to as Banzai Bill launchers. So currently, Bomber Bills come out of Banzai Bill launchers. Just thought I'd bring that up now that I still can, it's a matter of time before that name is changed as well. And that has been the story of Banzai aka Boomer aka Bomber Bill. What do you think of the name change? Is it an improvement or a downgrade? And was it even necessary in the first place? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.